How is everyone today? Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are well. I am recording this Wednesday afternoon, Melbourne time, Australian time. It is a sweltering hot day today. As I record this, I think it's 42 degrees outside. Absolute scorcher. So anyone here, please take care. It's meant to be a heat wave the next few days. Some extreme temperatures coming up. So to my Australian friends and listeners, please do take care. Some quite dangerous conditions ahead of us. I'm sure that's a world away removed from many of my other listeners across the pond over in Europe, especially. I understand there's some freezing cold temperatures being experienced there. So you too as well. Please do take care. So a few things to talk about today. As I had some time this afternoon and a few thoughts that I wanted to just to record and publish, because a combination of things. I think just with the unrelenting nature of football, I'm recording every sort of 2 or 3, 4 days anyway. I'm doing a lot of post-match reactions, instant reaction styles recordings. And what I find afterwards is that I miss things, right? There's some stuff that I've forgotten to mention, or things that I've thought about later, or even in one example that I'll come to in a moment, that whole incident with the Unai Emery Arteta handshake snub thing. Like, I didn't actually even see it, because after the Aston Villa match, pretty much as the match wrapped up, I started to gather my equipment to head outside to record. So I completely missed that. I was only made aware in the aftermath. So a bit of breathing room helps as well. It's been nice this week that Arsenal have had, I think it's a 5-day gap in between matches, in between the win over the weekend. How good was Declan Rice, by the way? I'm glad he's getting his flowers from more than sundry, because as he deserves. Like, what a phenomenal footballer he is. But between then and now, the next match against Liverpool Friday morning, Australian time again, we've got the benefit of some breathing room. So I thought I had a bit of time this afternoon, come back on and just share a few thoughts about where I think Arsenal are currently poised heading into this match. And look, so for audio listeners, don't worry, I will read this out to you. I've got a bit of an agenda, a bit of a structure, which helps me. It helps me stick to an outline and know what it is I want to talk about. So the main points I want to cover today: Arsenal's 6-point lead currently, of course, at the time of recording this. Manchester City haven't played yet. I believe they play tomorrow, but it's 6 points at this point in time. I want to cover the distractions, noise that's lacking around Arsenal, which is a good thing. I'll explain more in a moment. Some thoughts on the transfer window. The January transfer window has officially commenced. But most of the time of this recording will be spent talking about Liverpool, a preview for Liverpool, and I'll have a crack at a predicted 11, which I am absolutely certain I'll get wrong, as per usual. So, as it stands right now, Arsenal are 6 points ahead of City and Villa. So we've got some very favourable results from other teams, a couple of favours that were dished out in Arsenal's way. So that's how do I want to package this up? Look, it doesn't automatically mean everything is going to go Arsenal's way. And we've certainly seen some match days where Arsenal have maybe stumbled or dropped some points. We've conceded some late equalisers, late winners, and other teams closed the gap, as a result. So it's not always going to be in one direction. Like you win some and you lose some. What I've noticed though, in the last 2 match days, which is, over the course of 4 days, that's 2 match days, right? With how quickly the games are coming in thick and fast now, is that we were 2 points just this time a week ago. Now that's extended to 6. So it's how am I trying to say this? I think Arsenal deserve a lot of credit here for keeping focus and just getting it done, because I saw a stat that Arsenal were the only 2 top 6 teams, and I use top 6 in inverted commas, that won both match days. All the other teams either lost or drew, and that's a testament to Arsenal, because how many times have we seen graphics or statistics with Arsenal in the other on the other side of that sort of stat? It's for me, what I'm getting at is that I'm getting such a sense of calm and composure from the club that there's minimal distraction coming inside of the club. They're not paying attention to much of the noise. Whether we play first before City or not, we are responding. We are answering questions. Just a week or 2 ago, I believe the way the schedule fell, that City kicked off just before us. So we were kicking off later in the day or later in the evening. And, of course, as much as everyone wants to focus on the match at hand, they'll all be aware of the result. I mean, it will be a passing comment or a passing reference. They'll be aware that temporarily City have gone ahead, and then it's our turn to respond. And we've got the business done. We've got 3 points and we've gone back up top, at the end of the match day. Then fast forward a few days, Arsenal played first. We got the result. We put the points on the board, and then it's over to City's turn. We put the pressure on. So whichever angle that it's, whether we play first or not, we're just delivering. We're just delivering results. And like I've said always, look, they don't have to be perfect. I don't think any team comes out of this schedule, this unrelenting nature of the festive season, as they're calling it, the festive fixture, festive fixtures, tongue twister. I don't think anyone comes out of them completely 10 out of 10 with perfection. It just doesn't exist. You got to find ways. You got to answer questions. And if you grind out wins, sure, fantastic. If you have an incredible second half and you blow 4 goals past Aston Villa and win in that sort of comprehensive manner, fantastic too. Either way, it's 3 points on the board, plus 3 points every single match since we dropped that last minute kick in the guts it was against Villa about a month ago, where they lost with literally the final kick of the game. So we've responded with 5 wins out of 5, 15 points on the board. And what the club is doing right now is this is the foundation of a Premier League title. The way we've gone and responded since, and we've overturned corresponding fixtures to last season. We won away against Everton. We won at home against Villa. We won at home against Bournemouth. Right. So there was also a win against Brighton in there as well, who we've dropped points to before. Bit by bit, we are overturning prior results, and it's really important that we generate a bit of a buffer here over City. And look, I understand the question marks around City. Are they what they used to be? Are they that ruthless machine that's going to win 15 out of 16 of their final games consecutive, for example? They've already lost 4, interestingly enough, and I think just look over the course of history, when you look at how many losses can a Premier League title winner afford, it's generally around the 5 mark. So, in terms of margin of error for them, it's also getting a bit tight. But I just think all this stuff is mostly noise. It's mostly noise externally. Inside of the club, whenever you hear someone speak, you hear the energy that they transmit, the sense of calm and composure. It's so reassuring watching from the outside. And I'm literally watching from almost the furthest point outside, as you can imagine. I'm all the way here on the other side of the world. And I can sense that level of calm and composure for Arsenal, because ultimately that's going to be the difference. We must stay focused. That title run-in, the final, half dozen matches, this final 6 to 8 matches, right? It's going to test our nerve. It's going to test all of us, right? Even me as a fan, like I would start to dream. I would start to dream immensely big, right? If the gap stays similar to what it is now, I'll be on edge. I'll be biting my fingernails watching every match. And that's just kind of noise distraction that I got to deal with. But inside of the club, and this is the most important point I'm trying to make here, is that there's nothing but just like a laser sharp focus. And it's just really, really really fantastic to see, because there's so much noise elsewhere. Just in the last day or two, we've seen Chelsea sack Maresca. We've seen United sack Amorim. I don't want to comment too much on other clubs because, ultimately I'm an Arsenal fan and this is an Arsenal-related podcast. But the reference just needs to be made that there's so much disruption happening at other clubs, and look how they choose to operate and the question marks over their models and their ownership and all the issues that's happening there. I'm just so glad it's not Arsenal. I'm so glad, because we've been through that just a few years ago, like just all the fractures that were there inside the club and outside, the fractured fan base. There was that whole, the whole later tenure of Arsene Wenger, which was a very difficult time for all involved. Even a boardroom level, vying for power. This is before Kroenkes took 100% ownership of the club. And even when they did and Wenger left and Emery was appointed, and you saw a bit of a power vacuum emerge and some certain executives that were appointed to help steer the club who were no longer there at this point in time. There was all sorts of jostling for power and all sorts of fractures happening that ultimately it didn't lead us anywhere, right? It didn't. Even in the early stages of Arteta's appointment, it wasn't all smooth sailing either. It was quite a rocky road with players and player relationships and the cliques inside the dressing room, players being left out of 25-man registration squad. Remember those wild times of that footage of Ozil and who was it? Kolasinac? Remember they were attacked in their car by some bandit with a knife? utterly bizarre things that even now, like it seems like a world ago, but it wasn't that long ago. That's only 4 or 5 years, which, look, I guess it's a long time in some ways, but when you reach a certain point in life, like I am, I'm at 45 now, those 4 years have gone in a blink, right? Even when I look at my kids and how tall they are and the things that they're doing and saying, you can just close your eyes and you transport it back to when they were newborns, right? Like the time just seems to go in a blink. So in some ways, it's a long time. In some ways, it's not. So not too long ago, Arsenal were embroiled in all these sorts of issues. Even 12 months ago, with the amount of noise around Arsenal, refereeing decisions, red cards, delaying the restart, and just all sorts of other issues. The major injuries we suffered this time 12 months ago. Every 3 days, Arteta's been asked the same question about the transfer window strengthening in January. We had a vacancy at the sporting director level at that point in time with Edu's departure a few months ago, and all the question marks that were hanging around over that, what happened and what was, and it surely informed some of our activity or lack thereof in the prior summer window, right? We left ourselves short. We used up those 2 loan spots, which would have been really handy to utilize in January. Unfortunately, neither of them really worked. Nito himself was cup-tied. We signed a cup-tied goalkeeper, right, as a backup, and he unfortunately had that moment of madness in the Champions League too. That he tried to fend the ball from outside the box, and like everyone was kind of left thinking, oh my God, like we can't rely upon him. If something happened to Raya, I'm pretty much. I think that was his last appearance from the club. Like I think even pretty much Arteta knew that we couldn't use him, and unfortunately Sterling wasn't quite the force he once was, which was a sad sight in its own self. But with all the injuries, we didn't even have a loan opportunity up our sleeve to strengthen in January from somewhere else in the Premier League, because we'd used them up. So just bit by bit, when you start to list all these things out, all this distraction, all that noise, fast forward to now, it's just a sense of calm. Even with the January transfer window, I don't think we need to really do anything significant. I know there's talk about Waneri as a loan, and it seems that Bournemouth is mentioned quite often in that conversation because, yes, it looks like Semenyo is all but a formality to join City, which is very interesting from their point of view because they've also suffered some other injuries in defence. They've had some significant injuries there, and they'll be active as they always are. They can just go casually spend 150, 200 million pounds like they did last January, and no one will really blink an eye because that's just that's the nature of that institution, and that they're able to do it. And they're able to get away with it. And look, it is what it is. From an Arsenal point of view, we've got players on the horizon to return. I mean, as well as we're performing, we also need to keep that in mind. We've still got players to come back into the fold. Havertz at some point will make an appearance. Maybe he's been earmarked for that Portsmouth match in the FA Cup. A few days after the match against Liverpool, we then have the EFL Cup as well, don't we? I believe yes. After Liverpool, in between the 2 Premier League matches between Liverpool and then the following weekend, I think we have Portsmouth in the FA Cup, and then the first leg against Chelsea. So I'd imagine that we're going to really lean into the squad in those 2 fixtures. So we're probably going to see appearances for Eza and the likes of him, Madueke, that they'll all have their time to shine. But just going back to my point about the January transfer window, I don't think we need to do anything too significant. There's also Mosquera to return on the horizon. Fury, I'm not too sure the severity of his injury. There's talk that it's a minor one, but enough to keep him out for another week or so. It's not, well, I don't want to jinx anything, right? I'm touching wood because I know what happens if I say this out loud. Unless something significant happens inside the club, if there's a major injury or a scare or a big market opportunity comes, I just think this is a fairly low key type of window for Arsenal because of how well we conducted ourselves, how great of a summer window it was with the 8 signings. And just back on the conversation around Ethan Waneri, look, on paper, I've been saying this for a little while. Like I worry about letting players go in January. I think that the sentiment I've got from the club, just from the very start of this season, was that they're all bought in. This is like a win now philosophy, a win now mentality. All hands on deck, whatever levers we need to pull in terms of financial levers to acquire the players that we did, the wages that we're paying them. I think there's like a internal internally at the club, there's like an understanding that we're just going to go hard for everything we possibly can this season. And then, of course, next season, it remains to be seen how sustainable is it to carry a squad of this size and this quality. Inevitably, there's going to be some attrition there. Like I can't imagine it lasting indefinitely. There's going to be some players who are going to be itching to play more. They're going to have offers elsewhere. They'll be approached elsewhere. And of course, from a financial point of view as well, with our financial commitments at some point, if there's a sizable transactions or fees on offer for us that can help alleviate and offset our spending, I think the club will need to make a prudent decision in that regard. So that's for next season. In terms of this year, where we are poised, at this point in time with a 6-point lead in the Premier League, 18 matches to go, we're into a EFL Cup semi-final. We've got FA Cup starting soon. We're also on top of the Champions League table as we speak. There's 2 remaining group matches to go, which we have earned the right to rotate in as well. And I'm not saying we're not going to take it seriously. Of course not. That's just not within the nature of how Arteta or the players speak. However, we've got the squad to be able to manage multiple commitments. For the first time in a long time, I've got that sense that we can navigate those enormous weeks when it comes to quarterfinal, Champions League midweek, a massive Premier League clash on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then back again on a Tuesday, Wednesday the following week, having 3 big matches inside of, say, 6-7 days. We've got the squad to do that now on paper, that is. So I just, of course, though, you just never know who's going to be available during those moments. Coming back to the conversation, for me, what's the word I'm looking for? Exiting players now, even on loan. I just wonder if the club would have to make a real proper assessment of that. Like, is it worth doing, or is it worth keeping Ethan around, knowing that there's minutes available across all these competitions? If we win against Portsmouth, right then and there's another fixture to wedge in an already packed January, February type of schedule. So bit by bit, and if we make it through the 2 Chelsea semi-final legs, then there's a cup final to play for as well. That's another fixture to add on. So I just wonder which way the club is going to lean. If it's going to a club like Bournemouth, I imagine in terms of playing style, it would suit him, right? And if he's going to get some minutes, what you don't want to do is, if you're investing the time to develop a player elsewhere, you want some assurances that they're going to play. I mean, there's no better example. Remember that Serge Gnabry loan deal way back then? I don't even know, what was the club thinking? We sent Wenger sent him to Tony Pulis way back in the day, and it still baffles me as to why that happened. He barely even played. I think he was just on the outs to begin with, and it's just you got to get these things right in terms of what's best for the player, and also seeking assurances that they're going to be utilised. Because otherwise, is he better off staying at the club and continue to develop, continue to train, continue to make appearances in cup matches or off the bench? It's a real toss of the coin. Which way do Arsenal go on that? Look, I want to get now to the Liverpool match. Look, I'm so keen for this. I've been keen for this since we lost at Anfield several months ago. I think this is a big match. It's big in so many other shapes and forms. Of course, City play first, so it remains to be seen what difference there is in the Premier League table. From an Arsenal point of view, we know we've got something to say. We need to respond to that loss, and it's just a massive match. I understand they're not the force they once were. I totally understand that. Look, if you looked at all factors in consideration, Arsenal should be winning this one, and winning this one, I don't want to say comprehensively, but you think we'd have too much for them. But put all that aside, it's still Liverpool. They're still the Premier League champions. They've still got some big players, even though Isak is injured and Salah is still away on AFCON duties. You still got to go and make a statement. There's going to be a number of people watching this match. It's a huge fixture. It's like a statement type of match. It's going to have all the build-up and all that stuff that goes with it. You're going to have many pundits and many other people as well, opposition fans in particular as well, waiting for Arsenal to stumble. This is the narrative now. They're waiting for Arsenal to botch it, because you know what happens. You're going to see the headlines. You're going to see the commentary, the question marks being raised. Are Arsenal going to bottle again? Do they have what it takes to go all the way? And I can understand why, because, over the course of the last few years, we haven't been able to manage ourselves through the big occasions, the big nights as well as we perhaps could. So what I'm getting at is I don't want to feed that. I don't want to feed that narrative. I want to go out there and just absolutely smack them up. I would love that, of course. I would love a similar performance and result to against Villa just a week or so ago, because similar going into that one, it's quite a similar. There was quite a similar tone to that Aston Villa, after having won the home leg, the reverse fixture earlier in the season, that they could have found themselves 3 points away from Arsenal in coming to the Emirates and winning. And we know what the narrative would have been. It's a 3 point gap. Arsenal is starting to stumble. The whole Unai Emery thing yet again. Should Arsenal let Emery go and whatnot? And just I can kind of just predict those headlines before they even happen, because it is kind of so predictable. It's so predictable watching Arsenal from a distance, and the way that we are spoken about. This is just an observation, by the way. I don't participate in these sorts of forums on Twitter, or I don't watch a lot of these shows because we don't have that sort of coverage here. I'm aware of it because I see what's shared or what's clicked up, or I see in terms of what's discussed by the podcasts that I listen to, and I'm sure you do as well. So it's a reference point for me I hear how Arsenal is spoken about, and it doesn't really happen with other clubs. I mean, just on this point, just to if you just bear with me for a moment on a bit of a tangent, like even that incident with Emery refusing to shake Arteta's hand, somehow in the narrative, in the fallout of that, I actually heard it questioned. Do managers, or does Arteta spend too much time congratulating and high-fiving his own staff? Shouldn't he go straight to the opposition coach and shake hands? Is it disrespectful? Something like that. And to the best of, I've never heard that as a thing. I have never heard anyone question or time how long is the appropriate timeline between the final whistle before you make your way to the opposition manager. It's never a thing. It has never been a thing. It always takes a few seconds. I mean, this happens across every match, in every league, every weekend, across the industry, across football. I've never even heard that question. And I suspect that if the roles were reversed, if Arteta did that, the way he is covered, right, the way he is disliked in many I guess in many forums, would they be as forgiving if he came up with that excuse that it was cold outside after being there pitch side for the best part of 100 minutes plus, right? And then all of a sudden can't hang around an extra 3 or 4 seconds to shake hands, and instead you go straight down to the change rooms. I mean, come on, you don't need me to convince you of any of that. Like, I call BS on that one, right? They're not going to be as forgiving to him. Even earlier in the season, when Arsenal was scoring, it was scoring quite regularly from set pieces, and the whole set piece FC narrative, it always rears its head. I've never seen a Premier League table adjusted for excluding set piece goals. I mean, I saw a few of those from some of the main accounts that were shared around. I've never seen that. I've genuinely never seen, it's only because it's Arsenal, right? And interestingly, I haven't really seen it since, because to the best of my knowledge, Arsenal have no longer scored the most goals in the Premier League from set pieces. I believe it's Chelsea now. Please correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, but that kind of explains why that whole stat, that whole table that's adjusted, is kind of vanished and disappeared as well. It's bizarre watching the way Arsenal is spoken to, and this is thanks for putting out with that tangent. I'm going to get back on topic. This is the type of thing that's feeding into my conversation around Liverpool, is because they're waiting for Arsenal to stumble. They're waiting just so they can point the stick and say, "Look, it's happening again. I told you so. I predicted this." And it's not genuine. And I get it. It's a clickbait, rage bait style of environment we live in now, like what's going to be clipped up and what's going to drive the most engagement. And Arsenal fans as well, seem to feed off that. And Arsenal fans maybe can't help themselves as well in terms of biting back. And it's a bit of a two-way street sometimes in that regard. But look, I don't want to give them any headlines. I just want to go and get the job done, and just a resounding victory. It'll be brilliant. It'll be brilliant for the club, and just to put a few things back in their place as well. So I'm super keen for this one. 7 a.m. kickoff on Friday morning here. Time. There's my morning sorted. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be on like Donkey Kong. I understand as well that there's going to be a big atmosphere called for. I believe there's going to be like a pre-match, I think that light show they call it. There might be a TIFO involved from a headline I saw. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to be here for it. I'm going to be watching first thing Friday morning, and I just hope we go and smack them just quietly. Actually, I'm not saying that quietly because I'm saying it out loud, but look, just a resounding victory is what I hope for. And I think Arsenal are doing really well so far in Arteta's time. We've done the retribution angle quite well, a bit of a revenge angle. We've been able to feed off that and channel that energy in the right way and responding in the right way. So I think the players are still stung by what happened earlier in the season and even last year as well. I think it's time to go and win one of these big matches against Liverpool at home in our house. And with the two matches afterwards, both being cup matches, I think we can go full strength on this one. I think the best possible available 11. I understand Calafiori is still injured, so I'll have a crack at a predicted lineup, which I'm sure I'm going to get wrong, but I think it's going to be Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Nkapie at left back. How good is it, by the way, to have Saliba and Gabriel available for a match of this stature? I can't recall the last time both Saliba and Gabriel played the full match against Liverpool. Seems to me to be quite some time. But in midfield, I think it picks itself. Rice, Zubimendi, Odegaard, even the front three. I think he's going to go with Saka and Trossard again on the flanks. Look, there's a question to be had. Is it time for Jesus to start? And it's a toss of the coin for me. I think in terms of the struggles that Liverpool have had with set pieces, their centre-backs are not in great form as well, balls over the top. I think he will lean towards Gyökeres. Maybe there's some space for Victor Gyökeres to operate within, and hopefully he can get on a score sheet because he really does need a goal. Look, other than that, I think we're going to go all guns blazing. We've got options on the bench. If we need to change the impact from the bench in the second half, I think we're going to have too much for them, and I really, really hope so. So, look, it remains to be seen, but one thing for sure is that I will be recording soon after. So please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. I will be back on soon after the Liverpool final whistle with another instant match reaction podcast. If you're following on your podcast platform, whether Apple or Spotify, please leave me a 5-star review, follow the show. That will be most beneficial, please. And just a general thank you as well to everyone. I'm coming up to 12 months now doing this podcast, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I can't believe how quickly that's gone. But thank you to all my recent followers, subscribers. Please, leave me any comments, any questions. I read every single word. And just thank you, as always, for continuing to listen. Support my little channel. It's greatly appreciated. So I'll be back on soon. I'll talk to you in a few days' time. Until then, look after yourselves, check in with your loved ones, and come on, Arsenal.